If you watched Iron Resurrection from the beginning, you probably remember the man with sparks flying at his fingertips. Arc welder in hand, rarely talking, but always producing results. That was Mike Zabonik. In a world of loud personalities, staged drama, and high-octane energy, Mike was different. He didn't need a catchphrase or a dramatic entrance. His presence was steady, silent, and essential. He was the guy you could trust to take a pile of rust and steel and turn it into a flawless chassis, frame, or panel. On a show full of characters, he was the craftsman. From the earliest episodes, Mike stood out not for how much he said, but for how much he did. Whether it was restoring the frame on a '68 Camaro or welding custom parts for a classic C10, Mike was always in the background making the impossible look routine. His hands were usually blackened with metal dust, his expression focused, not on the cameras, but on the work. And that's exactly why fans respected him. In a world increasingly dominated by influencers and manufactured personas, Mike Zabonik felt real. He didn't care about airtime. He didn't chase the spotlight like some of his peers across other shows. He was never trying to sell a brand or go viral. He simply did the work, and he did it better than most. His background in welding and fabrication wasn't learned for TV. It was earned through years in the shop, decades of grinding, fitting, bending, and building. Fans quickly began to take notice. Online forums were filled with praise for Mike's technique. YouTube comments under episodes often read, "That Zabonik guy is the real deal," or "The quiet ones are always the best builders." To many, he represented what the custom car world is truly about: skill, patience, and pride in every weld. In short, Mike Zabonik was the heartbeat of Iron Resurrection's early seasons. But just as fans were getting to know and appreciate his talent, he disappeared. No warning, no farewell, just silence. And that silence left behind questions no one ever answered. Until now. Long before the cameras started rolling and Iron Resurrection became a hit on Motor Trend, Mike Zabonik was already working side by side with Joe Martin. Their relationship didn't start with TV. It started in the trenches of real-world restoration. Mike wasn't hired for his looks or screen presence. He was brought in because of his reputation for excellence, precision, and no-nonsense work ethic. Joe Martin knew that to build world-class hot rods and customs, he needed a fabricator who didn't just know how to weld, but lived for it. Zabonik came from a background steeped in hands-on automotive experience. A Texan through and through, Mike cut his teeth in metal shops across the state, working with both classic restorations and modern performance builds. Welding wasn't just a skill to him, it was a way of life. He understood the language of steel, the tension in a panel, the feel of a TIG weld done right. And when Martin Bros Customs started growing, Joe didn't just want Mike on the team, he needed him. When Iron Resurrection began production, the crew was filled with friends, not fame seekers. Joe Martin, his wife Amanda, painter Javier "Shorty" Ponce, and Mike Zabonik formed the core of what made the show work. It was chemistry born from years of collaboration, not manufactured drama. Mike quickly became the guy who could be counted on when deadlines got tight and the builds got complicated. When something went sideways, and on a build, something always does, it was Mike who got it back on track. While others hammed it up for the cameras or added color commentary, Mike just kept building. And for the people behind the scenes, that consistency was gold. He didn't crave recognition or question the plan. He simply delivered. That's why Joe Martin often referred to him as the unsung hero of the shop. But even as the show took off and the garage grew in fame, something about Mike never changed. He kept his head down. He rarely smiled on camera. He never tried to sell himself as a personality. because to him, the work was the reward. But television has a way of magnifying everything, especially the pressure. And over time, that pressure started to wear on him. In a world where custom car shows often rely on big personalities and even bigger egos, Mike Zabonik broke the mold. He didn't need to yell, joke, or hog screen time. He just needed his welding hood and a solid project to tackle. And strangely enough, that quiet presence made him one of the most beloved members of the Iron Resurrection cast. For every fan who admired the flashy paint jobs or the jaw-dropping transformations, there was another who watched just to see Mike work. Online forums dedicated to the show often had entire threads praising his steady hands and no-drama attitude. YouTube comments would flood with appreciation after each new season dropped. Zabonik is the real MVP, or love watching Mike weld. He's the backbone of this operation. Even Instagram pages dedicated to car restoration would occasionally repost clips of Mike at work, labeling him the most underrated guy on car TV. Why the admiration? Because Mike represented something rare in the entertainment-driven world of automotive reality TV: authenticity. His skill was never in question. Every bead of weld he laid down, every frame section he fabricated was textbook perfection. For hardcore gearheads, he was a reminder of what the industry is supposed to be about: craftsmanship, not cameras. He also brought an old-school attitude that resonated with blue-collar viewers. He wasn't there to become famous. He didn't show up looking for endorsements or followers. He was there to build great cars and do honest work. And that, ironically, made him stand out in a sea of characters chasing the next big break. Even the producers knew they had something special in Mike. While he never played the central figure, they often cut to him during critical build moments. The team trusted him, the audience respected him, and the show was better because of him. But then, he was gone. Just like that. And fans weren't just surprised. They were worried. Because when a guy that reliable disappears, something's usually up. Season after season, Mike Zabonik showed up. No fanfare, no grand entrances, just that familiar welding helmet and a cloud of grinding sparks. And then, without warning, he was gone. No farewell scene, no official statement, no explanation. Just missing from the shop floor when the next season of Iron Resurrection aired. Fans were stunned. Was it a scheduling conflict? A contract issue? Health problems? Drama? The silence left a void and a mystery. For viewers who followed the show religiously, Mike's absence was immediately obvious. Message boards lit up. YouTube comment sections filled with questions. "Where's Mike?" became one of the most common search queries tied to Iron Resurrection in the months following the season premiere. Loyal fans dug through social media accounts, rewatched episodes for clues, even messaged cast members for answers. But nothing concrete ever surfaced. There was no dramatic exit filmed for TV, no goodbye post, no Instagram story explaining his whereabouts. It was as if Mike Zabonik had simply vanished from the automotive world. And that lack of closure only made fans more desperate to know what happened. Theories started flying. Some believed he had a falling out with Joe Martin or the producers. Others suggested health concerns or burnout. A few even speculated that he had moved on to a secret project or started his own shop. But without any confirmation, everything was guesswork. Adding to the intrigue was the tone of the show after his exit. While Iron Resurrection remained successful and entertaining, something felt different. The energy shifted. The builds were still beautiful, but Mike's unique brand of quiet excellence was missing. And viewers noticed. For many, Mike Zabonik was the soul of the shop. The guy who showed up every day, did the hard work, and asked for nothing in return. His disappearance wasn't just a staffing change, it felt like losing a friend. So, what really happened? The next few parts explore the most credible theories, and the truth that Mike himself may never fully explain. By the time Mike Zabonik disappeared from Iron Resurrection, fans were hungry for answers. But those who worked in the world of custom car shows already suspected the truth. Burnout. Working in a restoration shop is hard enough under normal circumstances. Long hours, tight deadlines, and unforgiving metal. Add cameras, producers, and the pressure of millions watching every weld, and it can break even the toughest craftsman. And Mike? He wasn't made for the spotlight. He was made for the work. Insiders close to the production have hinted for years that Mike wasn't exactly in love with the filming process. He didn't mind being on TV, but he hated the repetition. Scenes had to be filmed multiple times for camera angles, and simple jobs often dragged out longer than necessary because of reshoots. For a guy like Mike, who was all about efficiency and quality, that became frustrating. Fast. Then there's the pacing. While a build in real life might be done with natural flow and attention to detail, a TV schedule demands speed, spectacle, and cliffhangers. And when deadlines tightened or production needed drama, the pressure in the shop could go from intense to unbearable. Friends say Mike never complained, but you could see it in his eyes. The joy of the craft was getting chipped away by the chaos of TV deadlines. And while the rest of the crew may have found ways to adapt to the cameras, Mike wasn't interested in learning to play the game. He wasn't about branding himself or building a fan base. He didn't want merch, followers, or fame. He just wanted to build beautiful machines. It's been said that Mike began quietly pulling back from the show even before his official disappearance, taking fewer hours, staying out of certain shots, skipping press events. When he finally stopped appearing altogether, it didn't feel like a sudden break to those on the inside. It was more like a slow fade, the quiet exit of a man who'd had enough of playing along. And when Mike left, he didn't slam the door. He just walked away. While speculation about drama or burnout dominated online discussions, those close to Mike Zabonik suggest a simpler, more human reason for his departure from Iron Resurrection. He wanted his life back. For years, Mike had balanced his love of fabrication with the grueling schedule of a TV show. But when the cameras turned off, the price of that fame became more visible. And like many blue-collar craftsmen suddenly thrust into celebrity, Mike began to reassess what really mattered. Friends say Mike wanted to spend more time with his family, time that reality TV constantly consumed. Shooting days could stretch well beyond a standard work shift. Travel, promotional work, and retakes ate into weekends and holidays. And even when Mike was home, he wasn't always present. The demands of being TV Mike meant constantly being on, something that never sat well with a man who'd built his career in the quiet hum of welding torches and sanding blocks. Then there are whispers, never confirmed but quietly acknowledged, about Mike facing some health struggles. Nothing major or life-threatening, but enough to remind him that time is precious and health is not guaranteed. He didn't want to grow old under studio lights. He wanted to grow old doing what he loved, on his terms, in his time. There's also the toll of being recognized. Mike wasn't looking for fame. He didn't chase followers. But when fans started stopping him at gas stations and grocery stores, asking for photos or project advice, it didn't feel like appreciation. It felt like invasion. And for someone as reserved as Mike, that took a mental toll. Ultimately, stepping away from the show wasn't a failure. It was a choice. A deeply personal, deeply deliberate choice to put peace above popularity. And while fans may have missed seeing him on screen, those who knew him best understood. Mike didn't disappear. He just refocused. Whenever a cast member leaves a reality show without warning, the rumor mill kicks into overdrive. And in Mike Zabonik's case, speculation was fierce. Some fans assumed a falling out with Joe Martin, the show's host and lead fabricator. Others imagined tension behind the scenes, creative differences, contract disputes, or personality clashes that boiled over. But according to those close to the crew, the truth is far less scandalous. There was no dramatic shouting match, no secret betrayal, no doors slammed or bridges burned. In fact, every public statement Joe Martin has made about Mike has been overwhelmingly positive. He's described Mike as a brother, a master of his craft, and someone I'd work with any day of the week. That kind of praise doesn't come from a bitter exit. It comes from respect. Insiders from Martin Bro Customs have echoed that sentiment, saying Mike left on good terms, with gratitude on both sides. Joe understood that not everyone thrives in the spotlight. And Mike? He just wanted to get back to what he loved, without the burden of cameras in his face. Still, fans couldn't help but wonder, why no farewell episode? Why not give Mike the send-off he deserved? The answer may lie in the nature of reality TV itself. Sometimes, production timelines don't allow for proper goodbyes. Sometimes, cast members step away quietly, hoping to avoid attention. And sometimes, the most honest farewell is no farewell at all. What's clear is that Mike's departure wasn't the result of bad blood. It was a natural evolution. The show moved forward, and so did Mike. And while they may not work together on camera anymore, there's every reason to believe the respect between Mike and the Martins still runs deep. In the end, it wasn't drama that made Mike walk away. It was dignity. So where is Mike Zabonik now? That's the million-dollar question for Iron Resurrection fans who've been searching for answers. He's not updating YouTube. He's not appearing at car shows or launching a merch line. He's not even particularly active on social media. But if you know where to look, and more importantly, if you understand the type of man Mike is, you start to see the pieces come together. Sources say Mike is back in Texas, living a quieter life and still doing what he loves most: welding, restoring, and fabricating, just not in front of the cameras. In fact, he's reportedly been working in smaller, private shops across the state, taking on selective custom jobs by referral only. No production deadlines, no artificial drama, just raw craftsmanship and peace. Some fans claim to have spotted him at niche garage events or caught glimpses of his handiwork in behind-the-scenes posts from other builders. His style is unmistakable. Solid welds, clean lines, no shortcuts. Whether he's helping on a frame-off resto or laying down some TIG welds on a custom suspension, Mike leaves his signature in the steel, even if his name isn't on the sign outside the door. He's also kept ties with several friends from Iron Resurrection. While he might not be in the shop every day with Joe Martin anymore, word is they've remained on good terms. Joe even mentioned in a podcast that Mike's doing great. He's just off the radar by choice. In a world obsessed with being seen, Mike Zabonik's decision to vanish is almost poetic. He never needed the fame, and he never wanted it. What he did want was the satisfaction of building something real, something with weight, permanence, and precision. And now, he's doing it on his own terms. For Mike Zabonik, welding wasn't just a skill, it was a language. He didn't need to talk much because his work said everything. Clean, precise, and honest. That's how he welded, and that's how he lived. And it's that philosophy that explains why he chose to step away from the spotlight, rather than let it define him. Mike was never chasing the TV cameras. In fact, from the beginning, those close to the production say he was hesitant about being on the show at all. He preferred working with his head down, not delivering sound bites or playing up for drama. His fame came as a byproduct of his skill, not his ambition. In one of his few public comments, Mike once said, "TV or not, I just want to build stuff that lasts." That quote says everything. While others in the custom car world have leaned into celebrity, creating brands, building media empires, Mike leaned back. For him, legacy isn't found in YouTube subscribers or Instagram likes. It's found in the welds you don't notice because they're perfect. This quiet dedication earned him immense respect in the industry. Other builders speak of him in almost reverent tones. To them, Mike isn't just a guy who used to be on TV, he's the real deal. No ego, no shortcuts, just skill and soul. And that's what makes Mike's disappearance so compelling. He didn't vanish because of scandal or failure. He left because the noise got too loud, and he didn't want to shout to be heard. He'd rather build something beautiful in silence than speak nonsense in the spotlight. In a way, Mike represents a dying breed, the craftsman who values the work above the recognition. And in that choice, he's become even more legendary. Though he no longer appears on Iron Resurrection, Mike Zabonik's legacy continues to echo through every episode, every frame, and every fan memory. His fingerprints are all over the show's early seasons. The restored frames, the detailed fabrication work, the seamless body panels. For years, Mike wasn't just part of the team. He was the foundation. And fans haven't forgotten. In comment sections, forums, and Reddit threads, his name still pops up. Where's Mike? The show isn't the same without him. Mike Zabonik was the heart of that shop. When you leave that kind of impact without ever trying to be famous, you've done something rare. You've earned respect. Inside the industry, Mike is seen as a craftsman's craftsman. A guy who didn't cut corners, who worked without ego, who showed up, did the job right, and went home. That's a harder legacy to build than a viral moment. And it lasts longer, too. Even though he never gave a dramatic farewell, Mike's departure felt like a moment of quiet truth in a world full of noise. It reminded viewers that the most important people in a build aren't always the ones delivering one-liners or closing deals. Sometimes they're the ones just doing the work. Today, Mike Zabonik is out there, somewhere in a Texas shop, torch in hand, eyes focused, sleeves rolled up, still building, still restoring, still choosing the quiet dignity of craftsmanship over the chaos of celebrity. And maybe that's the lesson he leaves behind, that the loudest voice isn't always the most important, and that the best legacies are built one weld at a time.